Hello, Year 7, it's Mr. Johns here. So today, can you just quickly go and do the Google form quiz at the start, as you've done in previous lessons? And then when you upload your final work, if you just put the score you got out of 10 in the private message box. Okay, so go and have a go at the Google form quiz now that's attached to your Google Classroom. Press pause and obviously then come back to the video when you're finished. Right, so today we are going to be looking at the question, why is the tertiary sector increasing? So in the past few lessons, you've looked at farming, which is in the primary sector. You've looked at where you locate factories and Nissan, which are obviously in the secondary or manufacturing sector. And today you're going to be thinking about the tertiary sector. Just remind yourself quickly, what do we mean by the tertiary sector? Can you think of any jobs in that sector? Hopefully what you've come up with is it means the service sector. So that could be jobs all the way from being a lawyer and doctor, sort of highly skilled jobs where you need a degree, but also equally important jobs such as, cleaners or taxi drivers, anything which provides a service to people. So these jobs can vary in terms of how much you earn, but they're all important in different ways. So what I'd like you to do is write the title, and then you'll see that attached to the classroom today, there is a YouTube clip it's a Visit Britain advert. So if you just watch that, it's 1 minute long. If you pause this video and just watch the YouTube clip and then come back. Okay, so hopefully you've watched that clip showing some of the reasons why people visit our country. What I'd like you to do is just answer those three questions very quickly, just short answers. So first of all, what do you think a holiday is, in your opinion? What does that mean? Why do people go on holiday? And why do you think taking holidays has increased since the 1850s? So in the last sort of 150 years. So just pause the video and answer those three questions quickly. Okay, so we'll come back and look at those answers later on. So when you, some of you drew a graph in lesson 1 where you got some data and you saw that since the mid 20th century, the UK secondary sector, so manufacturing, has been going down. And at the same time, more people have become wealthy, more people's wages have increased. And that meant that more people had something called disposable income. So as well as being able to spend their money on food and shelter and heating, things that they must have, they were able to spend their money on more non-essential things, such as, increased healthcare. I know that you could argue that's essential, but shopping, entertainment, and holidays. And this meant that there were lots of new jobs being created in a growing tertiary sector, growing sort of service sector. And in countries like the UK, the tertiary sector is now the largest part of the economy. So more people work in services than they work in primary or making things. So in this lesson, we're going to focus on jobs that are linked to tourism in particular. And that's the world's fastest growing economic activity. 1 in every 10 jobs in the whole world are linked to tourism in some way. Now, that might mean that people actually work in tourism. So they might be travel agents, or they might be travel guides or something like that. But also tourism creates jobs from other industries. So if you're a taxi driver and you're working in somewhere where tourism is quite popular, then obviously tourism is going to create lots of work for you because you're going to give people rides in your taxi. You might not specifically work in the tourism industry, but it helps to create money for you. So can you just make a note, write down this keyword. So write down tourism, and then the definition we're going to use for that is tourism is traveling for pleasure, as opposed to, traveling for work or anything else. So just write down that keyword and definition. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to think for a minute about why tourism in the UK and generally has grown. So tourism began to develop in the UK from about 1850. At that time, seaside resorts like Scarborough, Blackpool, and obviously Teignmouth and Torquay as well, they started to grow rapidly because people who were in the nearby towns and cities started to have a bit more time and a bit more money. And there was more people in the cities because of the Industrial Revolution, which is something you may well have learnt about before and you will probably learn about in history. So there were two main reasons why tourism began to increase. So the first one was because the railways began to develop, there was quick and cheap transport for people to get from the cities to the coast. So lots of people took advantage of that and came, for a day to get some sun sometimes and to go to the beach. And it also, at the same time, they started to introduce paid holidays so that workers could have time off from work and still earn money, which was a new thing. So people could obviously afford then to spend a week or a weekend on holiday and didn't lose out. So these two things were very important. So can you just write down those two reasons why tourism started to increase? So if you just pause the video and write those two reasons down. Okay, so moving much towards now, most people now have more leisure time and paid holidays than before. At the same time, obviously more people own cars and air travel has become much cheaper than it used to be. And so it's pretty normal now for people from the UK to go on holiday abroad. At least, if not once a year, but more often than they used to. But the UK is also a major holiday destination for people from other countries. And tourism is a major source of money for the UK. So Teignmouth is a holiday destination. Lots of money comes from tourism. So I want you to think about the local area of Teignmouth, and I want you to use the diagram here to help you with these two activities. So first of all, just make a list of the kinds of jobs that tourism can create. So have a look at the diagram. Think about the jobs that tourism creates directly. So people who are literally involved in the tourist industry. And try and think of it in Teignmouth in particular. And then think of the jobs that maybe are not directly as a result of tourism, but they could be linked to it. So we've got, a few bed and breakfasts and hotels in Teignmouth. So obviously they are directly linked to the tourism industry. But people who maybe clean the hotels or people who maintain the hotels, they're not directly linked, but it's creating jobs for them. So see if you can list as many jobs as you can, and then split those jobs into directly or indirectly linked to tourism. Maybe use two colors, two highlighters, or maybe even a key with D for directly and I for indirectly. So just have a go at doing as many as you can, just for 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so also, we've said that the UK gets lots of tourists from abroad. So what I'd like you to do next is just read this short bit of text and then just pick out 2 reasons why the UK is a popular destination for international tourists. So that's tourists from other countries. So see if you can pick out 2 specific reasons why lots of people come to visit the UK. Probably take about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to read it, and then a couple of minutes to pick out 2 reasons. Okay, well done guys, done some good work. Now the last thing I want you to do is we're going to look at some tourist attractions in Scarborough, which is a seaside resort in the UK. And then we're also going to practice a little bit more our 6-figure grid references. Now you did that last lesson, and some people may have found it harder than others. So what I want you to do is take a copy of this table. Okay, so just 2 headings, tourist attraction on the left and 6-figure grid reference on the right. And we're going to try and add in 5 tourist attractions and then find the 6-figure grid reference for each of them. Right, so we're going to look at a map of Scarborough, and the first thing I want you to do is pick out 5 tourist attractions. So what sort of things would attract people to Scarborough? We could look for physical attractions like beaches, or we might look for human attractions like museums. So just draw the table first, and then when you finish that, you can press play again on the video, and we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so here's our Ordnance Survey map of Scarborough. If you look carefully, you'll see that there are some beaches here. This one's called North Beach, South Beach. You can see that there are some museums. There's a museum here. There are some campsites on there. This funny little symbol here, which looks like a sort of fan, is a viewpoint. So something like that might be an attraction for tourists. Over here, we've got a tent and a caravan. So that's a campsite. So that again could count. So just write down 5 tourist attractions that you can see on the map. And again, it could be physical or human. Why would people maybe visit Scarborough? I'm going to move on to the next slide, which shows the map, but with a grid on it. Because then what we're going to do is I'm going to remind you how to do a 6-figure grid reference, okay? Okay, so here we've got our map of Scarborough with the grids on, and you can still see some of these tourist attractions here. We've got North Sands, for example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you do a 6-figure grid reference. So say we are looking at North Sands as our tourist attraction, okay? So we write North Sands in our table, and then we're going to give the 6-figure grid reference for it. So first thing you do is you go along the corridor. So we look along here, and we know this is square 01, square 02, square 03, and square 04. So we know that North Sands is in 04. But how far across? Well, actually, it runs across most of it. So let's just pick a central point. So here, we would say that's 04, and it's halfway across. So that would be 04, quite hard to write with this, 5. Okay, so we've gone along the corridor, and we've got 3 figures of our 6-figure grid reference. Now, the next thing is we're going to go up. So we can see that this is square 35, 36. This is square 37, and we can see that North Sands is in it. So then we think, right, where is it? So I'm going to go across to this point. So we know it's in square 37. But how far up? And I say it's not quite halfway, it's just below. So we might say that is a 4 out of 10 of the way up. So what we end up with is North Sands 6-figure grid reference is 045 because it's a 5 out of 10 of the way across, and 374 because it's 4 out of 10 up. And we get the grid square 045374. Now, if you are still struggling a little bit with 6-figure grid references or even 4-figure, I did put a little website called MapZone, which has lots of videos and things like that telling you how to do some of the geographical skills like 4-figure grid references and using symbols. So if you have a look at that, that might be a good way for you to understand how to do them and then come back and have a go at this. Okay? All right, guys, so that's the last thing today. So remember, put your score for the quiz in the private message when you upload your work from this lesson. And if you upload that to Google Classroom, either myself or Mr. Lewis will be marking your work, and we'll give you some feedback on that. Okay, have a good time. Have a good weekend, or depending what day you get this this lesson. And I will see you next time. See you later, guys.